I'm back again with another neutral sword video. I swear this is the last one. I'm not doing this again. This is the last episode of the trilogy. I probably won't do any video on this deck again until the end of the expansion, but since I made this list, I spent a long time, not really a long time, but like more than usual I guess, working on this list. I thought I'd go and make a video and maybe go a little bit more in depth into the deck list compared to what I usually do. So first of all, the concept of the deck is to make full use of Roland, and because of that we are playing it in neutral sword. Big reason being neutral sword has a very solid evo engine to help you get followers evolved. So because of that we are running the standard neutral sword cards. We run Charlemagne, the main engine of neutral sword, and we are playing Roland, and then the rest of the cards are here to support that. So we run a bunch of neutral cards. We run Harbinger of the Night. Harbinger of the Night has a lot of very good synergy with Charlemagne. For one, she's able to get 2 evos for 1 PP if you just evolve her and buff the angel with Charlemagne's effect active. The angel will also evolve, and it will also heal you for a nice 6 health, which is very valuable for just 1 PP. It's basically Gilnalise, which is kind of insane to say out loud. And then the other thing is that if you have multiple copies that you don't need, you can just use her effect to draw a card and just trade her in for a card if you want. Having a 1 PP neutral is also very valuable when you're going actually it's just valuable in general. If you're going second, you can do something like play Charlemagne, evo her, play Harbinger, and then play Loyalty's Reward to buff it, and that's a way for you to sneak in an evo in the turn if you don't have any other options. This also applies to Asuka and Shuri when you're going second. When you're going first, Asuka and Shuri not super active, but for Harbinger of the Night, it's still active when going second. When going second, your turn 4, you would like to play Day and then play Day's spell to evolve her to get that free evo, right? So on turn 5, you can play Charlemagne, then you can play a 2 PP follower like a Blooming Dancer or maybe Oceanus. And then with your remaining 1 PP, you can play Harbinger of the Night, and then with Day's not special investigation, with Day's token follower, you can buff that Harbinger or the other follower you played for a nice evo. So it just helps you fill out your curve on some very awkward turns with 1 PP, which is why I do like Harbinger of the Night. Honestly, I probably should run more copies in this deck, but I didn't really know where else to take out, so I just kept it at 2 copies. We also run Asuka and Shuri. When going second, it fulfills a similar role to Harbinger of the Night. It heals you. It also helps you have a 1 PP follower, but in this case, she also just draws cards, which it helps you find Charlemagne. We don't really have a very solid tutor for Charlemagne in this deck, so having more draw will help you find that. And of course, we have our neutral payoff followers. We have Alice, who has Storm after 7 evos. You can also use her as a when you're going, from my experience playing the deck, when you're going second, you mainly save her for the Storm. But when you're going first, you usually play her on like turn 5 or 6 just to help fill out your curve and get the evo count up and draw more cards. So that's how I treat Alice. It's useful. She's useful from the mid to late game, so as long as you don't draw her in the early game, she's pretty much just a solid card to have. And then we also run 2 of Grimnir. Grimnir is another evo payoff. He does damage. With Charlemagne's effect, he does a total of 9 damage, which is pretty cool. We only run 2 copies of him because he's not super useful in the early game and mid game. You also have to sink an evo point to him to use his full effect, which we'll get to this later, but this deck doesn't have a lot of evo points to spare, so having the sink and evo point on him makes him a bit worse, which is why I only run him at 2 copies. And then the other stuff we need to talk about is of course Twofold Grace, the last neutral card in this deck. Twofold Grace is probably the best card in the deck if I'm being honest. It's just so much. It's basically your entire early game is on Twofold Grace. The amount of difference you will feel when you draw Twofold Grace compared to when you don't is extremely big. So yeah, it's a very solid card. It gives you a 2-cost 2/2, which you can either get Wards with Last Words or you can get Rush with 1 damage, and then they will alternate between each other as long as you have their Last Words active. Tsukuyomi in particular deals 2 damage with her last words with Charlemagne active. Them also being a 0 PP neutral follower that you can basically put in play will help you a lot with getting your evo count. So for example, you can use Day, and then you can use that Evan that you get to buff the Tsukuyomi or Amaterasu you summon. You can also do this with Loyalty's Reward. It's yeah, so it's basically pretty useful to have a 1 PP follower for various sorry, not 1 PP follower. This one's basically a 0 PP follower, and it also alternates. And the bonus of having the ability to recover evo points is also valuable because, as I said earlier, this deck is a bit lacking in evo points. You really want to evolve like every turn if you can, so you need evo points to spare, which is the idea. If you count the total number of neutral followers we have in this deck, 1, 2, 3, 4 times 3 is 12, 12 plus 16, 18, 20, wait, no, 14, 16, 18, so we have 18 neutral cards. And then that means that we have 22 swordcraft cards, which is an important balance to pay attention to because of Troya. Troya is our major form of pre-evo turn evos. It's a solid source of tempo, so you really want to have a balance of sword and neutral cards in your hand because Troya's effect is so powerful. So that's one of the things we pay attention to. I think I could have probably skewed it a bit more towards the neutral side, but oh well. So we also run Loyalty's Reward as a sword card, which is just here to help you draw a card, so that's good. And it also gives you Rush and +1/+0 to our neutral followers, which you can use to trade in the early game or use it to just evolve a follower. And then the ward effect is actually also useful. If you have something like what's it called? If you have something like a Day's token follower Evan, you have something like Evan in your hand, what you can do is actually just to play Weiss, evolve Weiss, play Evan, and then use this spell on Evan to give Evan ward so that you can protect your Weiss. So there is applications for both effects on this card, which is why it's a very strong, solid card that we are very happy to have in this deck. Runs a 3-off. They, as we were talking about, another new card, very solid evo engine. It's a free evo, it draws cards, it storms. This card basically does everything you need, so it's a very good card. Weiss is here because some matchups you can really just win using his ability to stop fanfares, and conversely some matchups you really need Weiss to win because your damage is not fast enough or just not enough in general. Things like Buff Dragon, Control Portal, Weiss is very very good at helping you against, so I think Weiss is very necessary in this deck, so which is why we run him. And then we run one of Rosalie here. Rosalie here is because she's basically a trash can for extra cards, because if you play this deck, you will know that it has, between Roland and Alice, you actually draw a lot of cards. Most of these cards also just like replace themselves. Loyalty's Reward replaces itself, Blooming Dancer replaces itself, Oceanus gives you the token and replaces itself, Dashing Duelist replaces itself, Asuka and Shuri draws you 2 cards, Troya replaces itself, Day replaces herself, Alice draws 2 cards. So we have a lot of cards that replace themselves or draw you more cards, so Rosalie is just there to help you with hand management. And also, after you fuse a bunch of cards into her, you can use her to use her fanfare to play a cheap ward that heals you. You can also use it to protect Weiss, which is another option for her. And also her transmute effect is not too bad, it can help you cheese out some games with her Storm. It is worth noting that on 7 PP, Alice, Rosa, on 7 PP, 7 evos and 20 rally, Alice, and then Rosalie's transmute with an evo point is exactly 20 damage, which is another lethal option. Mostly worth noting for if you are playing against Control Portal or another very brutal Chronos deck. If you manage to get to 10 PP but they Chronos you down to 7, you still have this OTK option available to you if it comes down to that. Just worth noting, I guess. And then we also run 1 copy of Agile Twin Blader. As I've been saying before, the damage for this deck is sometimes just not enough, so we run Agile Twin Blader 1-off. Pretty much bad in every point of the game but the late game. but it's necessary for us to run one copy of the finisher, so we just run one Agile Twin Blader. It can really help you close out some games, so I definitely recommend running a copy. And then we run the Dashing Duelist. This is the last follower I haven't talked about yet, I guess. Dashing Duelist is a 2PP 1/3 very flexible card. Against some classes it's a ward, against others it's an ambush. Its main role then the main reason why I run him is actually there's two reasons. The first is that at rally 10 he recovers an evil point, which is very good because we want to evolve a lot, so we need as many evil points as we can get. Running cards like Asuka and Shuri also makes us prefer having the ability to recover evil points so we can have more than our opponent. But we have a lot of evil point reliant payoffs like Grimnir and Weiss, so we want to have evil points for those. And the other reason why I run him is just because if you look at our curve, it looks like it's like a very standard like early game heavy curve, but if you think about the fact that Harbinger doesn't do anything in the early game, Loyalty's Reward doesn't do anything in the early game, Blooming Dancer doesn't do anything in the early game, Asuka and Shuri doesn't do anything in the early game, you find that our deck is actually very weak in the early game. We have very little cards to play in the early game, so we run Dashing Duelist also as just a card you can pop down on the field just in the early game to help you manage some board pressure, whether it's with his ward or just helping you clear followers and help you. He also cycles and draws you a card which can help you find Charlemagne. And his ability to draw a card is also worth noting. The interaction with Troya is that if you have too many sword cards in your hand, you can play Dashing Duelist and hopefully trade him for a neutral card, which is also pretty cool. So that is it for my list. There are some cards I didn't run that I think are probably worth mentioning, mainly Send in the Troops. I think Send in the Troops is a pretty popular card to run in neutral sword, but because we have so many different sword followers in this specific list, Send in the Troops just gets in the way, and it's not really consistent for drawing Charlemagne anyway, so we don't run it. And then we also don't run Galder because I mean, I've tested a lot with this deck and I feel like Galder just gets in the way like most of the time, so we go ahead and cut Galder as well. So this is the list that I ran. I don't think it's perfect. I think that it could be room for improvement, but well, I didn't have that much time. Well, I did have more time, but I didn't feel like testing it too much because I don't know, I just didn't feel like it. So I reached this point and I was like, it felt okay to me, so I just stopped here, and this is the list that I played. So I think I talked about the list for like way too long, so it's time to look at some games with the deck. So for our first game, we are going second against Portal. I think I say this like every time, but I'll say it again. Portal has like a bunch of different decks. I think mainly Artifact and Control are the decks that are around on the ladder right now, so we're going in expecting either one of those. So they play Puppet's Play here, which means that it's most likely Control, but it could technically be Evo as well, which we should probably keep in mind. So there's the Rift Dweller. Don't really know. We might be annoyed if they try to discard cards in our hand, so hopefully they don't do that. So we go ahead and play the Skiomi, just trade, get them in rotation as well as get some damage in. It's fairly important to get Skiomi and Amaterasu in rotation because we do have some rally payoffs like Dashing Duelist and Rosalie, and also Twin Blader. So this deck has very slow rally because we don't run the usual rally cards. So the Skiomi and Amaterasu really do help with that. So yeah, important to get them in rotation. So we take some damage here. Go ahead and play the Troya. Unfortunately, we didn't have enough neutral cards, so the Troya doesn't evolve here. So they pick Light Flash Saber, so we don't have to worry about them discarding our cards, which is nice. And out comes the Skiomi from them, and then we just take some damage here. It's our Evo turn here, but no Charlemagne, unfortunately, so we go ahead and play Day here. Day is like basically a 4 PP play, so there's when playing with Day, she's very flexible. So there's always the question of whether you hit first and then play the spell, or you play the spell first then hit. The benefit, of course, is if you play the spell first, then hit, you can draw a card immediately. without risking her getting removed, but if you hit first and then play the spell, you keep her on board in ambush, so you can potentially cheese out 2 more damage from her if your opponent doesn't have a way to clear it. Here, I'm not sure if they have a way to clear it, but I really don't want to risk it because I need to draw, what's it called? I need to draw Charlemagne, so we go ahead and just hit. And we play, I want to evolve the Amaterasu here and trade her. Maybe trading into Puppet's play just to get her in rotation might have been better. I'm not too certain on that one, but yeah. So there's the Puppet. So we see here that if I hit with Day first, I actually could have kept her, so maybe a bit of a shame on that one, but I think it's fine. Yeah, they do have Goddess, so it's a bit safer to just go ahead and keep Day, get draw up Day Weiss to could. So unfortunately, still no Charlemagne here. We go ahead and play the Harbinger and buff it just to draw a card and hopefully find Charlemagne. So still no Charlemagne, which is a shame. Go ahead and buff with Evan, and I believe I evo here. I don't remember. Oh, I don't evo. So at this point, without Charlemagne in my hand, I guess I'm trying to play a bit slower and more conservative. Against decks which Weiss is very effective on, like Portal, like Control Portal, Buff Dragon, Ramp Dragon, and to an extent Lena Haven as well. Generally, you can win just by forcing them to spend their evil points and then playing Weiss behind a ward. And playing Weiss behind a ward in this deck is extremely easy because of Roland, and to an extent Rosalie as well, so just keep in mind the game plan for this kind of matchup. It's just usually going into Weiss. If you're worried that Fiery Barrage or Case Crack will silence Weiss, I don't know why it works like this, but it actually cannot silence Weiss. If you remove Weiss effects, if you don't remove Weiss himself, it doesn't change the fact that the FanFest will be inactive, so worth noting for that. Okay, the duplicated card, we don't really know what duplicated. I think it's most likely like a Goddess or something. Maybe it's Chronos, we don't know. As long as we reach 6 PP, we're not scared of Chronos anymore. So we'll go ahead and get our evos in here. Get a bunch of free evos. And this puts me at 5, so next turn I can do something like Roland. We have Weiss in hand, so we're already looking at going for a Roland Weiss turn next turn. So because of that, we're trying to... Unfortunately, I wasn't able to keep a board here, so I'm not quite able to pressure them into spending their evil points. That's the Goddess of Compassion. Goddess of Compassion from them, which increase their max HP and decrease our max HP, but it's fine. Our win con for this matchup is mainly Weiss anyway. So go ahead and fuse into Rosalie to make space in hand, then we play Roland. Make sure to count how many cards you plan to draw in the turn when you are fusing into Rosalie, because you only do it once per turn. But anyway, we go ahead and evolve Weiss here. I'm not like 100% on whether Weiss will survive this turn or not, but either way it's just a solid play for me to put the pressure on them. So they played the Goddess of Compassion, so they did clone it earlier. And then they go ahead and evolve the Goddess of Compassion, which is able to clear my board, I believe. Yeah. So they do manage to clear the Weiss here, which is good for them. They had to sink some resources into it though, so I'm not too worried. They are now out of evil points, so if I pick up another Weiss, I'm just able to what's it called? I'm just able to lock them with Weiss probably, but I think, yeah. So I go ahead and look forward to future. At this point in time, okay, this gonna look really stupid, but you can see I was thinking about whether to fuse Charlemagne or not, and the reason being that at this point in time, you're in the Charlemagne's main role in this deck in particular is actually just the evolve followers. It's the extra damage is nice, but it's not as important, so I was thinking whether I even needed Charlemagne, but the consideration here was that I don't have a lot of evo points with Dashing Duelist. I only have 1 basically. So in the late game, if I need an evo, Charlemagne can evolve for free, which will be useful for me, so that's why I kept Charlemagne here. Go ahead and play the Roland. Try to draw Weiss here. If I can draw Weiss here, it'd be a nice roll, but for sure I don't pick up Weiss. I actually misplayed here, and I think I should have played Dashing Duelist first in case of the chance to top deck Weiss. So you see there, I didn't fuse into Rosalie correctly, and the reason why is because when I played Roland, I thought I had my second Weiss in hand already. which I didn't, so unfortunately I milled one card and it ended up being a pretty valuable one, so hopefully we don't miss that one too much. So now I go ahead and play the Dashing Duelist here, and we play the Charlemagne here. Charlemagne will evolve and go ahead and get the Evil Leader effect active. Since I have nothing better to do, I might as well hold on to the Evil point in case I draw Weiss. And out comes the Battlecruiser. Hopefully they don't toss my Rosalie. Anything else I'm not too worried about, but the Rosalie's pretty important here. When they didn't toss my Rosalie, so that's good. Since I have some free time, I go ahead and use Alice to chip some damage, or so I thought, but since I picked up the Weiss here, I actually prioritized trading. And then here I misplayed here, I only actually have to fuse one card. Fusing two was unnecessary here, so bit of a waste there. And then we go ahead and put Weiss behind the Rosalie, and I'm like 99% sure they shouldn't be able to clear this with 0 evil points. So it's their turn now. They go ahead and get the Amaterasu here, play Doll's Tea time. But it looks like they didn't have cleared it, so they just passed, and then from here we just finished the game with a lethal. So that's it for this game. The matchup against these kinds of decks is generally built around Weiss, so as long as you can get Weiss to perform, you can just win these matchups, which is why I'm not too worried against Control Portal, even though Chronos is very annoying. So yeah, that's it for this game. Let's move on to the next one. Our next matchup is against a dragon, and we are going second again. We generally do like going second when playing a neutral sword, because getting to evolve early is makes the game plan much smoother. The ability to get 5 evos by turn 6 is much more reliable when you're going second, so there's that, which is great. And going second also helps you draw and activate Troya more easily because you get an extra card in your hand, so there's that. Unfortunately, nothing to do on turn 1, we're better off saving Harbinger for later on, so we just hold on to that. Then we go ahead and pick up the Skriomi here just to clear. The Love Dragon does a lot of damage, so we want to reduce their damage as much as we can, even if it's just by 1. And we go ahead and play the Dion here. Take some damage. So we could Dueling Dancer into Harbinger, but that makes no sense, so we're gonna go Harbinger into Loyalty's Reward here. Try to pick up a Charlemagne. Unfortunately, we don't pick up Charlemagne here, so we're gonna go ahead and trade off into the Dion. And they're just gonna ramp with Oracle and play a Lucky Mermaid. Interesting they didn't save that for their Evo turn, but whatever, right? So here's the Amaterasu here, and we do pick up the Charlemagne here, which is great. But unfortunately, we spent our Loyalty's Reward last turn, so we can't evolve this Amaterasu, but we do have Blooming Dancer in hand to evolve as well, so that's fine. We go ahead and trade. Fortunately, we didn't pick up Troya, so we are still at 2 evolves here instead of the 3 that we would like to be, but it's fine. So they do have another Lucky Mermaid, and they go ahead and evolve that to buff the cards in their hand. And they play Terminus, and they only have 2 cards in their hand, so I'm guessing it's guaranteed whatever they buff. And there's the Coach Joe, interestingly enough. So they now have no hand. I mean, Coach Joe will draw 2 cards, so I guess there's that, but yeah. They didn't manage to clear my Blooming Dancer, which is very nice for me. So we go ahead and answer their board here. Just pushing out some damage, drawing some cards. I go ahead and evolve the Evan. This will put me at 4 evos, unfortunately, not quite 6 that I want to be at. Here I made a misplay because I did the input before I looked at my draw, which is a very bad habit I have. But make sure you look at your draw before you do stuff like attack. So unfortunately here I misplayed and missed the 1 damage of Loyalty's Reward because I didn't wait to see the card that I drew. So we're going to go ahead and buff the thing just to trade it for a draw anyway. And there's the Asuka Insurance from my opponent and the Grand Slam. At this point in time, we're not that scared of Grand Slam anymore. It's pretty well into the late game at this point, so yeah, it's fine. Unfortunately, we don't have the ability to play Roland here because we are only at 4 evos. I would highly recommend not playing Roland until you reach 5 evos because the value of the value that she provides when you play her for a full 6 PP is significantly worse. So luckily for me, the Skriomi came outside. I was able to manual evo the Skriomi. I actually forgot about the Skriomi here, but yeah, I managed to manual evo so I could play Roland. Go ahead and play Blooming Dancer, get the evil count up, try to get it up to 7 so that we can approach a win. And just play Dashing Duelist to draw more cards and recover an evil point here. There's a worm crafting from my opponent, just trying to draw an out for this, I guess. Lift out the Heaven Scale Trade, which will remove my board as well as draw them more cards, which is good for them. And then we pick out another Dion to ramp as well, recover their evil point, which is annoying, I guess, but here we make space by fusing in our hands so that we can play Roland. Here I'm planning Roland into Alice, so I fuse 2 cards to make sure I have hand space for both. But I pick up Weiss here, so I think I just go for Weiss instead. And then thinking about whether the trade Weiss is very awkward because some decks, like for example, if my opponent had the Oceania spell, Flowing Mercy in their hand, the one that destroys a follower with 5 defense or less, it would have been probably better to not trade there just to make sure Weiss is out of that range. So keep in mind what removals methods your opponent might have when deciding whether to trade with Weiss or not. It's not always correct to trade with Weiss. Even though you do get less damage going into your wards if you trade with Weiss, it's not always correct because sometimes your Weiss might become vulnerable because you traded it. So just keep in mind. In this case it was fine though, so we just go ahead and trade it. Let's Drazile from them, but unfortunately for them, Fanfrests aren't active, so they are not able to get rid of the Weiss with that Drazile. But it's still a big follower, so maybe they can protect themselves. They go ahead and trade here to try and chip down the Weiss, probably to finish it off next turn if they can. But here, I believe I just had lethal. Yeah, double Alice and then trade Weiss into the Drazile as well as lethal, but Grimnir is also lethal, so let's go with Grimnir instead. We evolve the Grimnir here for a nice 3 damage. Grimnir can finish off the thing, and then we can finish off with Weiss. So as you can see, Weiss is particularly effective, so we are particularly good against decks that rely on Fanfrests because Weiss is so strong and my opponent just concedes here. So let's move on to the next game. So for our last game for the day, we are playing against Forest in going first. Against decks that Weiss isn't super effective against, going first is better because if we don't need to rely on Weiss, then the 5 evos by turn 6 is not as important anymore. And going first allows us to keep tempo with the opponent because we are weak in the early game, so we need any advantage we can get. So pick up the 2-fold Grace here, which is great. We also have Charlemagne in hand already. We go ahead and use Spiomi to clear because we don't want to let them play either the Panther or the Tiger. So we go ahead and get rid of the Plumeria here. Opponent plays the Fairy Fun Fact and nothing else, so guess their hand's not looking too great. Go ahead and play the Charlemagne, and then hit face here, get a bit greedy. But Charlemagne should be good at protecting my face, also I thought, but there's the Castel from them. We go ahead and bounce the Castel as well with the Salvia Panther. And they're just trying to aggro me down, which makes sense. So trying to draw more cards here, so we just go ahead and play Dave. We can also get her to free Evo here, which is also very nice. And go ahead and buff the Spiomi here. The reason why I did it this way is so that my entire board stays alive. Forces my opponent to use Mei if they want to clear this. So they do have an Ageless Bystander here. Ageless Bystander notably allows you to play Mei on turn 4 with 4 PP, which is good for a Forest, I guess. But they had Mei in hand anyway, so I guess that didn't really matter. So there's the Fairy Wisp that they played, just give each 4 cards play, I guess. Now we are a little bit on the back foot here. Unfortunately, we don't really have anything in hand to use here. I think I just played. Did I play the Oceanas? No, I passed. I keep the Oceanas probably to play her after I reach enough Evo. No reason to give them trade targets anyway, because that will only help them accelerate their gameplay faster. Look here, they evolve their Cannon instead, which immediately tells me their hand is pretty bad. I think if your hand wasn't bad, you would definitely evolve one of the followers that could have hit face, but I guess their hand was bad, so yeah. We got a Loyalty's Reward off the top, which is great. We can use that to evolve the Amaterasu here. And we are not really in a position to save Alice for damage, so we'll just go ahead and use her for draw here. Go ahead and trade, which will let us play Oceanus as well. I think I picked the heal. Oh, I picked the removal. I was picking the removal. It was obviously better to save the removal for the evolved cannon instead of trading it with Alice, but I guess I wasn't thinking about that for some reason. But yeah. So out comes their Castell. They are at 10 followers now already, so they are starting to pick up the spell, which is a shame for me. There's the Plumeria. Plumeria will evolve because they are at 10 followers, as said earlier. Let me go ahead and play the Mei as well. The Mei will deal with my board, and then they didn't heal with the Plumeria. Oh, I guess they are full, so that makes sense, yeah. So they are now at 17, so if I clear their board, they will be officially at 20, which will let them play Castell. Unfortunately, I have no way to lock them or stop them here, so even though this Weiss looks very weird, you gotta hear me out on this one, but what playing Weiss here does is that, I mean, they can clear the Weiss at some point, I'm like fairly certain of that. They do have the Castell spell in hand, but playing Weiss here will stop them from being able to play the Castell spell here. I mean, stop them from being able to play Castell for her fanfare here, which will prevent them from getting more copies of the spell, which is the main goal. So they go ahead and trade. I believe that puts them at 20. Yep. So they go ahead and play a bunch of followers. Have Plumera as well, and then they use the Verdant Prayer, which will allow them to clear my board. Go ahead and evolve the Edgeless Bystander as well to pick up a bunch of Wisps, I guess, to make use of the Castell in their hand. We know the last card in their hand is Castell, so yeah. So they do manage to get past Weiss, have some follows on board. But if there's one thing Neutral Sword with its free evils are good at, it's clearing boards, so that's fine. Roland doesn't actually destroy anything, but that's also fine. We can pick out Evil Point here because I expect we'll need it next turn as well. Go ahead and get the Grimnir here. Evolve Grimnir. Unfortunately, I'm not actually at 7 evils yet, so I don't get the full 9 damage. But we go ahead and play the this reward here just to cycle for another follower. Buff the Roland in case that comes in handy at some point. And out comes their Castell. And then they go ahead and bounce to Castell again. Hopefully don't pick up anything too good. So they play Castell here. 2 of the cards in their hand is the spell from Castell. So they pick out another 1 cost follower, which is very annoying for me because that means that they are able to get the full value out of the Castell buffs and put out this big board, which is honestly a bit scary to deal with. But hopefully I can answer it somehow. Pick up the Oceanus here. So we start blooming the answer here just to draw more cards as well as get a trade. Go ahead and trade into the cannon here. And we pick up a Dashing Duelist, which we are very happy to have. If we check our rally right now, we are at 15, so we don't get the full 4 damage, but 2 damage is like definitely good enough. Go ahead and rain 2 damage down on them. Play the Oceanus. Flowing Mercy can't be used against any of these, but in case they have something to do next turn, I don't want to let them, so we'll go ahead and pick up the Flowing Mercy just to answer it next turn. Go ahead and trade the Grimnir here just to finish it off, and then just buff the Duelist and draw another card for good measure to make sure I still have plays next turn. Looks like they couldn't do anything though, so they just go ahead and pass, so we can go ahead and just slam down Agile for game. So yeah, that's it for this game, so and I think that's all the games I have for you for today. So that's all the games I have for you for this video. I hope you enjoyed them and hope it gave you some idea of how this deck works and how you can play it. The list is obviously not perfect. There are some cards that particularly stand out, like Rosa's actually not really that good, so if you want, you can obviously adjust the list however you like. This is but hopefully I gave you an idea of approach for playing Neutral Sword in this expansion and how it works. I spent a lot of time playing Neutral Sword this week, so it's sort of like brain rot right now. Probably gonna play some other decks now, give Neutral Sword a break for a little while, and yeah, I may come back to it at some point later on. So that's it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you in the next one. Yeah, bye bye.